Sometimes evil doesn't wear the mask of a monster. It brings lemonade, strokes your hair, smiles from behind a family photo. Everything seems perfect until one night exposes what's been hiding in the shadows for far too long. Where there should be warmth, there's cold. Where there should be trust, a trap. One whisper in the dark changes everything, and suddenly, it's impossible to tell who's saving and who's destroying. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. Morning sunlight filtered through a lattice of oak leaves as Noah Winslow bent over the engine of his classic Ford, metal tools catching the golden light with each careful movement. At 37, a lifetime in the shop had carved his frame into one of efficiency and quiet strength, not bulky, but built by years of precision and physical work. "Daddy, guess what I found?" He turned at the sound, his expression softening as Holly dashed across the lawn, pigtails bouncing, her small hands cradling something with reverence. "What do you have there, honey?" He wiped his fingers on a ragged cloth and crouched to meet her eyes. Holly slowly opened her palms to reveal a shimmering blue feather. "It's beautiful. Can I keep it?" "Of course," Noah said with a smile, gently tucking it behind her ear. "Suits you perfectly." "Lemonade's ready." Blair's voice drifted from the porch, light and warm like the breeze. She stood holding a glass pitcher, sundress fluttering, hair catching the sunlight like strands of gold. To anyone passing by, they might seem picture perfect. The steady father, radiant mother, and a little girl full of life. As Noah watched Blair set the pitcher down, something in his gut tightened. A subtle but familiar tug, like the whisper of a misaligned gear before it failed. It passed as quickly as it came. "I'm coming, Mommy!" Holly shouted, flying up the porch steps. Noah followed more slowly, easing the Mustang's hood shut. 3 years ago, it had been little more than scrap metal in a salvage yard. Now, it was nearly reborn. His garage, once just him and a dream, had become a tight-knit team of 4 at Winslow Auto Repair. "You've been out here since dawn," Blair said as she handed him a glass. Her smile was polished and camera-ready, just as it had been when she swept the Miss Junior Charleston titles year after year. "Almost got her purring," Noah said, sipping the lemonade. It was sweeter than he liked, just the way Blair always made it. They sank into the porch chairs, watching Holly race around the yard, chasing butterflies with uncontainable joy. "I had an idea," Blair said casually. "Let's take Holly camping next weekend. What about Lake Moultrie?" "Sounds good," he said, nodding. "Been too long since we got away." "I'll make your favorite sandwiches," she added, her perfectly manicured hand resting lightly on his knee. She's been asking for an adventure. The afternoon unfolded in a lazy rhythm. Noah tended the grill while Blair prepped vegetables. Holly, balanced on a stool, set the table with careful concentration. After dinner, they curled up for a movie. Holly nestled between them, warm and sleepy, her head resting on Noah's chest. When her breathing deepened, he lifted her gently and carried her upstairs, tucking her in with her well-loved stuffed bunny. "Sweet dreams, Pumpkin," he whispered, brushing her temple with a kiss. He lingered at the door, watching her peaceful rise and fall, his heart tethered to her every breath. The need to protect her surged through him, raw, absolute. Later, as Blair showered, Noah moved quietly through the house, checking locks and latches like he did every night since Holly had been born. He had no way of knowing then, no instinct, no warning, that everything was about to break apart. A scream cleaved through the darkness. Noah jerked awake, heart racing. The red digits on the alarm clock glowed 2:17 a.m. "Daddy! Mommy! It hurts!" Holly's voice tore into him. He was on his feet and sprinting down the hall before thought caught up. Blair was just behind. Holly thrashed in her sheets, face twisted with pain, clawing at her skin with desperate hands. Even in the soft light, Noah could see the angry red welts erupting across her arms and neck. "Oh God," he breathed, dropping to her side. "Holly, what is it?" "It burns, it itches," she sobbed, trying to tear at the rash. "Don't scratch, baby," Blair said, her voice cracking as she gripped Holly's wrists. "You're hurting yourself." Noah scanned the spreading irritation. It wasn't something familiar, not chickenpox, not an allergic rash he'd ever seen. The speed, the heat of it. It was wrong. Then he heard it, her breath, wheezing and shallow. "She can't breathe right," he said, the words sticking in his throat. "Get her shoes. We've got to go," he snapped. "Shouldn't we call someone first?" Blair asked, frozen. "Blair, now." There wasn't time to argue. Noah gathered Holly in his arms, her body shivering and fever-hot. She gasped, tiny and ragged, against his chest. "You're okay, baby girl," he whispered fiercely, trying to keep his own fear from cracking open. "Daddy's here. We're going to fix this." Minutes later, the truck was tearing through empty streets, Holly wrapped in a blanket on Blair's lap. Noah drove like a man possessed, blowing through red lights without hesitation. Every faltering breath from Holly felt like a fist closing around his heart. "She's worse," Blair cried. "Noah, her lips, they're turning blue." Something deep inside him gave way. Something primal, ancient. Not Holly, not my little girl. The County Memorial emergency entrance came into sight as Noah made a sharp turn, the truck's tires shrieking against the pavement. He slammed the brakes and brought the vehicle to a jarring stop beside the ambulance bay. In an instant, he jumped out, yanked open the passenger door, and lifted Holly into his arms. "My daughter can't breathe," he shouted, sprinting through the sliding doors, her small, lifeless body cradled against his chest. "Somebody help us." Chaos erupted inside, nurses darting past, stretchers wheeled through narrow hallways, voices rising above the din. Within minutes, Holly lay in a curtained exam room, medical staff quickly attaching monitors and threading tubes around her. Noah stood nearby, nerves fraying, eyes fixed on his daughter's pale face. Then, a tall figure in a white coat pushed through the curtain. His salt-and-pepper hair and calm authority gave him an immediate presence. "I'm Dr. Victor Ramsey, the attending physician," he announced as he approached the bed. "Let's assess the situation." Noah remained tense, observing every movement with clenched fists. "Has she ever shown symptoms like this before?" Dr. Ramsey asked without looking up. "Never," Noah said. "Not even close." The doctor glanced briefly at Blair, then back to Holly. Something in his expression shifted, a slight tightening of the jaw, a flicker of recognition. "Mrs. Winslow," he said, his voice level. "Haven't we met before?" Blair blinked in confusion. "I don't think so." "I never forget a face," Ramsey replied, then turned back to Holly. "She's undergoing a severe allergic reaction. We'll administer epinephrine immediately and send for blood work." As the team moved with expert precision, Noah felt an uneasy tremor ripple through him. There was something unspoken happening, something that didn't fit. He moved closer to Holly, gently wrapping his hand around hers. Her skin was blotched with angry red hives, but her breathing was easing. "You're okay, sweetheart," he murmured. "Daddy's here." He looked up and found Dr. Ramsey already watching him. Their eyes locked for a moment that seemed to stretch out, filled with something tense and unreadable. Noah felt his guard go up. Outside, early sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting golden lines across Holly's blanket. The medication worked quickly. Her chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm, and the rash began to lighten. Noah didn't leave her side all night, nodding off occasionally in a stiff chair while Blair went home to grab clothes and Holly's favorite stuffed bunny. Later, Dr. Ramsey returned, tablet in hand, scanning the monitors. "How is she now?" Noah asked, his voice raspy from fatigue. "Improving, the reactions subsiding. We'll keep her for monitoring through the day, possibly overnight," Ramsey responded. Some of Noah's tension eased. "Do you have any idea what triggered it?" The doctor looked briefly toward the hallway before replying, "We're running a full panel. Has she ever undergone allergy testing?" "No," Noah said. "Never needed to." Dr. Ramsey nodded. "Would you mind changing her into the hospital gown? It should be in the cabinet over there." "Of course." Noah stood and moved to the cupboard. As he retrieved the gown, Ramsey stepped up beside him, closing the distance with subtle intent. Without drawing attention, he slipped a folded note into Noah's hand. "Check her for any unusual bruises," he said aloud. Then, in a whisper only Noah could hear, "Read this when you're alone." Noah's heart jumped. He tucked the note into his pocket and returned to the bed, carefully dressing Holly. He checked her body as he did, her arms, her legs, her back. Nothing stood out. "I don't see anything," he said quietly. "Understood," Ramsey said, jotting notes. "A nurse will collect blood shortly. Use the call button if anything concerns you." Soon after, Blair came back. Despite the hour, her appearance was flawless. Holly lit up the moment she saw her. "Mommy!" "There's my brave girl," Blair said with a warm smile, placing a pink bag on the bed. "I brought Mr. Flopsy in your pajamas." Noah watched intently. She was loving and doting, exactly what anyone would expect from a devoted mother. And yet, Ramsey's earlier behavior lingered in his mind like a bad taste. "I'm going to grab some coffee," he said, rising to leave. "Want anything?" He wandered until he found a small, empty waiting area. Finally alone, he pulled out the note with trembling fingers. Though his hands stayed steady, his chest pounded. He opened the folded paper and read, "Your wife is hurting your child. Meet me tonight. Alone." The words hit like a punch to the stomach. He read them again, and again. They made no sense. Blair adored Holly. Anyone could see that. Still, something inside him shifted. He thought about the unexplained bruises from a few weeks ago. Blair had blamed a fall at the playground. He remembered the night Holly had vomited violently after spending the day with her mother. The half-truths, the evasive phone calls, and that feeling, the gut instinct every mechanic lives by, that something wasn't right. Now it screamed at him. He hadn't seen it. Or maybe he hadn't wanted to. If there was even a sliver of truth in what had been implied, Noah was determined to uncover it. And if Blair had harmed their daughter in any way, may God have mercy on her, because he would not. By the time Holly finally slipped into sleep, night had fully blanketed the sky, wrapping the hospital in a calm that replaced the earlier bustle with the quiet murmur of night nurses making their rounds. Blair, sitting upright and rigid in the corner chair, exhaled a tired sigh and stretched out her arms. "You should really go home and get some sleep," she said softly. "I'll stay here with her tonight." The suggestion made Noah's gut twist. After discovering the note, the thought of Holly being alone with Blair sent a chill down his spine. "I'm fine," he replied, voice calm and steady, concealing the tension roiling inside him. "Are you sure? Don't forget you've got that shipment arriving at the boutique first thing tomorrow." When Blair eventually left, leaning over to kiss Holly on the forehead and brushing Noah's shoulder with a fleeting touch, he stayed rooted in place, unmoving, his gaze fixed on the slow, precise ticking of the second hand. At 11:30 p.m., his phone buzzed with a text from an unfamiliar number. "Service entrance, 15 minutes. Dr. R." The service entrance was a discreet corridor at the rear of the hospital, dimly lit and generally reserved for staff. Noah found Dr. Ramsey there, standing near the loading dock with an unlit cigarette dangling between two fingers. "Mr. Winslow," the doctor greeted him with a nod, tucking the cigarette into his coat. "Appreciate you coming," Noah began. "Spare me the pleasantries," he said curtly. "What the hell did that note mean?" Ramsey's face remained impassive. "Let's walk." They moved to a quieter corner of the lot, far from stray ears and security cameras. Once they were alone, Ramsey turned to face him. I apologize for the secrecy, but this isn't something I could say openly. Medical confidentiality has its limits, but serious suspicions require action. Suspicion of what? Noah demanded, though dread was already tightening in his chest. I believe your daughter may be a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and I suspect your wife might be the perpetrator. Noah blinked. What does that mean exactly? It's a form of abuse, Ramsey explained. Typically, the caregiver, most often a mother, induces or fabricates illness in a child for attention or sympathy. Holly's recent symptoms match the profile of a chemically induced allergic reaction. Noah's jaw tightened. That's a serious accusation. I know, and I don't make it carelessly, Ramsey said. But your wife, I've crossed paths with her before. She acted like she didn't recognize me. She lied, Noah said flatly. 8 years ago, I was at a hospital in Georgia. Blair Jensen's came under investigation for neglect involving her younger sister. The case was dismissed due to insufficient evidence. Her uncle had connections. The name hit Noah hard. Jensen's, her maiden name. She had always claimed she was from Florida, and that she was an only child. So, you're saying she hid her past, and she might be hurting our daughter? I'm saying it's a possibility you can't ignore. We just got the test results today, Noah said, voice tight. They found latex in Holly's system. She's severely allergic. I'm almost certain Blair knew that. My God, Noah whispered, stunned. How would she even expose her to it? There are countless ways. Gloves, contaminated food, toys with latex residues, even balloons. The materials differ, but the behavior stays the same. Ramsey stepped closer, his eyes unwavering. You need to understand, Mr. Winslow. You're sharing your home and your bed with something dangerous. The words sent an icy weight crashing into Noah's chest. His mind rushed back to Holly, so small, so defenseless, lying alone in that sterile hospital room. What do I do now? His voice cracked beneath the pressure. Be alert. Keep detailed notes. Document everything. Report anything strange. But I warn you, cases like this are incredibly difficult to prove. Ramsey's expression softened just slightly. I'll keep Holly here as long as I can justify it from a medical standpoint. I'll run every test I can think of, but she won't be able to stay forever. Noah nodded, already mentally preparing for what lay ahead. He needed real evidence, something undeniable, and he wouldn't be able to do it alone. Thank you, he said, extending his hand, for looking out for Holly. Ramsey clasped it firmly. I couldn't protect her sister, but maybe I can help save Holly. As Noah made his way back to his daughter's room, each step felt heavier, like he was walking through the wreckage of a life that had just imploded. Everything he believed about his family, about Blair, had been upended. But amid the collapse, something new took root, a cold, unwavering resolve. If Blair had truly done this, there would be no redemption, no leniency, only consequences, delivered with the same calculated intent she had used against their child. Inside the darkened room, Noah sat beside Holly's bed. The rhythmic hum of machines and her gentle breathing were the only sounds. His mind reeled with memory after memory, now cast under a harsh, interrogating light. 3 months earlier, Holly had turned up with odd bruises on her back and arms. Blair had discovered them, calling Noah in a panic. She probably fell at the park, she'd said, her voice trembling. You know how she climbs everything. At the time, it seemed plausible. Kids got bruises. It wasn't unusual. But then there were other incidents, a sudden, unexplained fever that vanished overnight, a frantic hospital visit that yielded no real diagnosis. Now, none of it felt like coincidence. Nothing felt innocent anymore. Holly had come down with food poisoning, yet strangely, she was the only one affected, despite the entire family having shared the same meal. It could have been a fluke. But other things, odd, unsettling things surrounded Blair that Noah couldn't ignore. The hushed phone calls behind locked bathroom doors late at night, her sudden obsession with working out, which clashed with her long-standing disdain for physical activity, her vague reasons for staying late at the office, never reflected in any raise or promotion. Noah's phone buzzed, dragging him out of his thoughts. A message lit the screen. It was from Blair. "How's our girl? Want me to drop off breakfast?" The casual use of "our girl" landed in Noah's chest like a knife tip. If Dr. Ramsey's theory held any truth, if Blair had intentionally made Holly sick, then it meant she viewed their daughter as a means to gain sympathy, not as a child to be protected. He typed back, "She's asleep. Doc says she's improving. Don't worry about breakfast. Hospital food's fine." He needed to keep her at a safe emotional distance until he could figure out his next move. His thoughts turned to someone he trusted without question. Dylan Rowe. They had grown up side by side in the tougher parts of Charleston, learning early on to cover each other's backs and never walk away from a fight. Dylan had transformed his talent with computers into a successful cybersecurity company, though Noah knew his friend wasn't above skirting legal lines when it mattered. Noah fired off a text. "You awake?" The reply came almost instantly. "For you? Always. What's going on? Need to talk. It's Holly and Blair. That serious?" "Yeah. Meet me at the shop tomorrow at 7. Too risky to talk here. I'll bring coffee. Stay strong, brother." A soft sound from the hospital bed pulled Noah's attention back to the room. Holly stirred, her face tightening with discomfort. "Daddy?" she murmured, her voice barely more than a breath. "I'm right here, baby," Noah said, moving closer and taking her small hand in his. "What's hurting?" "My arm itches. Try not to scratch it, okay? That'll just make it worse." "When can we go home?" she asked, her eyes barely open. The question felt like a blow. Home, the place meant to keep her safe, could be where the danger lurked. "Soon," he told her, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "The doctors just want to be sure you're feeling all the way better." After she fell back asleep, Noah settled into the chair beside her bed again. As dawn crept through the blinds in pale stripes, a hardened resolve took root inside him. If Blair had truly been harming Holly, deliberately and over time, then she would have to answer for it. Noah Winslow hadn't come this far by backing down. He had built his garage from the ground up, shielded his family like a man who knew the cost of loss. Now, all that grit would go toward one mission, protecting Holly, whatever it demanded. By the time morning arrived, the sky was soaked in gray mist. Noah unlocked the side door of Winslow Auto Repair just past 5. He hadn't left the hospital until Dr. Ramsey personally promised to call with any updates. Blair was expected at 8, which gave Noah a tight window to speak with Dylan at 7 sharp. The door creaked open right on schedule. Dylan stepped in with 2 steaming coffees and a laptop bag slung over one shoulder. At 35, he was lean, not from gym workouts but from long hours spent at computer desks. But there was still a discipline to the way he carried himself, a remnant of his army days. "You look like hell," Dylan said, handing over one of the cups. "Feel worse," Noah muttered, taking a grateful sip. "Thanks for showing up." "Don't thank me. We're not the thanking type. Talk to me. What's going on? That text last night rattled me." Noah leaned against a tool cabinet, trying to corral the words. "Holly's in the hospital. Allergic reaction." "Shit. Is she gonna be okay?" "She's stable. But the doctor," he pulled me aside, "said he suspects Blair did it." Noah's fingers clenched around the cup until it crinkled. Dylan went rigid. "What the hell are you saying?" "He said he's seen her before, at a hospital in Georgia. There was another case, a sibling she supposedly hurt, a sibling I never even knew about, one that doesn't exist in any records." "You're thinking Munchausen by proxy," Dylan said grimly. "That's exactly what he said. making your kids sick just to soak up sympathy. God, Dylan breathed, rubbing his jaw. You believe it? I don't want to, Noah said, setting the coffee down harder than he meant to. But the puzzle pieces are fitting too well. She's been acting strange. Secrets, lies. Holly's been in and out of hospitals for over a year with no solid diagnosis. Dylan narrowed his eyes, all business now. What do you need me to do? I need surveillance, Noah replied, firm. I want eyes on her. I need to know what she's doing when I'm not there. I need actual evidence, whether she's innocent or not. You're asking me to spy on your wife. I'm asking you to help me save my kid. So, will you? Dylan didn't hesitate. His entire demeanor changed, steel replacing sympathy. For Holly, he said, I'm in, all the way. You know what you're asking me to do, right? Dylan said, his voice grave and deliberate. If I find proof, if Blair's involved in this, there's no coming back from it. I get it, Noah said, his jaw set hard. But if she's endangering Holly, I'm not standing down. Dylan gave a slight nod and flipped open his laptop. Okay, here's how we'll do it. I can set up covert cameras in the shared spaces, living room, kitchen, Holly's room, but nothing private. Your bedroom and the bathrooms are off limits. He added, I can also break into Blair's phone, but I'll need about 10 minutes of uninterrupted access. You said she charges it next to the bed at night? Yeah, Noah confirmed. Her lock code is Holly's birthday, April 17th. That should be enough, Dylan said. When can I install the equipment? Tomorrow. I'll make sure she's out of the house for a while, Noah replied, checking the time. I need to get back to the hospital before she shows up. I won't leave Holly alone with her. You seriously think she might do something there? Dylan asked, raising an eyebrow. I'm not about to take that risk, Noah said grimly. Dylan stood and placed a firm hand on Noah's shoulder. We'll find the truth, he said. If she's innocent, all the better. But if she's not, he left the rest unspoken. She'll regret ever touching Holly, Noah said quietly, finishing what Dylan hadn't. One more thing, Dylan said as they moved toward the door. You should speak with Sheriff Vaughn. If things escalate, it's smart to have the law involved from the start. Why Vaughn? Noah asked, frowning. He had a run-in with the Jensen's family a few years back, Dylan explained. Might give us some perspective on Blair's background. How much is she hiding? Noah muttered. I'll reach out to him. Don't thank me yet, Dylan said in a somber tone. We're only just beginning. Rain hammered the windshield as Noah drove toward the hospital, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil inside him. It didn't feel like just a rainy evening. It felt like he was heading straight into the eye of something long simmering. But storms could be weathered, with the right defenses, and Noah planned to be ready. 2 days later, Holly was cleared to go home with instructions to avoid latex and a bottle of antihistamines. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Ramsey pulled Noah aside. Keep a close eye on her, he said softly. Anything that seems out of place, document it, and don't hesitate to call me. I will, Noah replied, feeling the weight of responsibility settle even heavier on his shoulders. Back at the house, Blair moved efficiently around the kitchen, cooking dinner. Holly sat nearby, lost in her coloring book. Noah kept his face neutral, though his thoughts were anything but calm. The day before, Dylan had installed the surveillance system. Tiny, undetectable cameras hidden in light fixtures, smoke detectors, and even Holly's favorite stuffed bear. Noah's phone buzzed. A message from Dylan popped up. Setup's done. Cameras are live. Call me when you can. I need to check a car at the shop, Noah said offhandedly, standing up. Won't be gone long. Once inside his truck, he called Dylan. We're live, Dylan answered right away. The video is uploading securely. Only you and I can access it. I cloned her phone too and put a GPS tracker in place. And what have you found? Noah asked, already bracing for the worst. Too early to say anything concrete, Dylan replied. But she's been regularly texting someone named Aaron. Seems friendly, consistent, not suspicious yet, but notable. Noah's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Any idea who he is? Still piecing that together, Dylan said. From the texts, sounds like someone from her gym. She's always talking about shakes, workouts. That gym habit had always felt out of place to Noah. Now it slotted into the growing puzzle. Dig into her family too, Noah said, especially the uncle Dr. Ramsey mentioned, the one who helped her escape trouble in Georgia. Already on it, Dylan confirmed. I've also set up a meeting with Sheriff Vaughn tomorrow morning. He seemed intrigued when I brought up the Jensen's name. Good, Noah said, eyes fixed on the warmly lit house ahead of him. Keep at it. I'll follow up after the meeting. Later that night, after Holly had fallen asleep, Noah sat in the living room, pretending to scroll through work emails. His real focus was the live video feed from Holly's room, where she lay sleeping peacefully. Blair was supposedly in the shower until he saw movement on the screen. She entered the room, wrapped in a robe, her hair twisted in a towel. Noah's heart thudded as he watched her cross to Holly's bed. She straightened the blanket, smoothed Holly's hair, and kissed her gently on the forehead before slipping out again. The moment appeared loving, caring, maternal, but a knot of suspicion remained twisted in Noah's stomach. If she had harmed Holly, how could she also show this kind of tenderness? Unless that was all it was, a performance. Sheriff Carter Vaughn's office smelled faintly of old coffee and cleaning solvent. The walls were covered in plaques and framed photos, snapshots of family life mixed with decades of policing honors. At 48, Vaughn looked like someone who'd borne witness to too much, but hadn't let it break him. Appreciate you seeing me, Sheriff, Noah said, lowering himself into a creaky chair across from the cluttered desk. Dylan's friends get my attention, Vaughn replied, leaning back with a perceptive look. He mentioned this is connected to the Jensens? My wife's maiden name was Jensens, Blair Jensens, Noah said calmly. A flicker of unease crossed Vaughn's face, his jaw tightening. You mean she's related to Connor Jensens? I really couldn't say, Noah admitted honestly. She's always kept quiet about her relatives. Said things went south with them long before we got together. Vaughn turned to a cabinet and pulled open a drawer, retrieving a thick file. Connor Jensens was slippery as hell. Big name in real estate, politically connected in every direction. There were rumors, money laundering, shady deals, but nothing ever stuck to him. He thumbed through the papers inside. I remember seeing her in the background at functions. Young, blonde, probably in her early 20s at the time. He slid a faded newspaper clipping across the desk. In it, a younger Blair stood beside a distinguished, silver-haired man at a black tie event. Noah swallowed hard and nodded. That's her. Vaughn kept his tone even. So, what's got you worried? Noah laid it out. Holly's strange illnesses, Dr. Ramsey's concerns, and the troubling things he'd recently uncovered about Blair's history. With each revelation, Vaughn's face grew darker. Munchausen by proxy is tough to prove, the sheriff said after a pause. And if Connor Jensens is still backing her, you're walking into a legal war. I don't care how uphill this is, Noah said, voice steady and low. If she's hurting Holly, I'll do whatever it takes to stop her and make damn sure she pays for it. Vaughn studied him silently for a few moments. Dylan mentioned he had surveillance in place. Anything solid yet? Not yet, Noah replied, but we're keeping close watch. Keep it up. Document everything. And Noah. Vaughn leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. Be smart. If she catches on, and if your suspicions are right, she might get desperate. That puts both you and Holly at serious risk. Once back in his truck, Noah immediately called Dylan. Just got out of the meeting with Vaughn. He's on board, but we need harder evidence. You might be in luck, Dylan replied. I've been going through their text messages all morning. Blair's planning something she's calling a camping trip for next weekend. Noah's blood went cold. Just her and Holly? Yep, she's going to pitch it as some sweet mother-daughter bonding thing. No way in hell, Noah growled. This could be our shot, Dylan said cautiously. If she's planning something, that might be when she acts. We could set up surveillance, catch her in the act. Noah's stomach turned at the thought of using Holly as bait. Absolutely not. I'm not putting her in harm's way. What if we're right there with them? You, me, maybe someone Vaughn trusts. Holly would never be alone. We'd intervene at the first sign of trouble. Noah gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned pale. Let me think it over. Keep monitoring those texts. Will do. Oh, and something happened this morning. After you left, the cameras picked up Blair going into Holly's room. She was wearing latex gloves. Noah's heart kicked hard in his chest. What was she doing? She picked up Holly's toothbrush. Still had the gloves on. I already sent the footage to your secure inbox. Noah glanced at the clock. Blair was at work for at least another 3 hours, and Holly was at kindergarten. He needed to see that video. Back at the auto shop, Noah booted up his laptop with shaky fingers and logged into the secure system Dylan had set up. The file was there, time-stamped from earlier that day. He watched as Blair entered Holly's bathroom, one gloved hand reaching for the toothbrush. Her movements were calm, calculated. She rubbed the brush slowly, meticulously, then replaced it precisely where it had been. Her face was blank, coldly clinical, like she was performing a task, not something that could endanger her child. Rage erupted in Noah's chest, scorching and uncontrollable. He slammed the laptop shut, jaw clenched tight enough to hurt. Everything inside him screamed to confront her, to make her explain, to make her pay. But Vaughn's warning echoed loud in his mind. Don't confront her. Not yet. These things can spiral fast. His phone rang. Holly's school. A chill spread through Noah's veins as he picked up. This is Noah Winslow. Mr. Winslow, this is Mrs. Davis from Oak Ridge Elementary, the woman said. Holly has developed a rash on her face and hands. She mentioned her toothbrush tasted strange this morning. Given her health history, we thought we should call you immediately. I'm coming now. Please, don't let anyone else take her home, not even her mother. 20 minutes later, Noah sat in the back room of his shop, holding Holly in his arms. Her cheeks and hands were blotched with angry red patches, but she was breathing normally. Thank God. For now. Noah had given Holly the antihistamine prescribed by Dr. Ramsey, and it was beginning to ease her symptoms. She made a face as she brushed her teeth, resting lightly against his chest. It tastes funny, she murmured, like balloons, the rubber kind. Just like the video, Noah thought bitterly. I know, honey, he said, gently running his hand through her hair, his voice calm despite the storm brewing inside him. You won't have to use that toothbrush again, I swear. His phone buzzed with a text from Dylan. She's on the phone with Larkin, talking about how to get rid of the kid and cash in. Insurance is explicitly mentioned. Noah's chest tightened. Insurance? He typed quickly, still cradling Holly with one arm. Dylan's reply came seconds later. Life insurance, $2 million. Policy taken out 3 months ago. Blair's listed as the only beneficiary. A surge of ice-cold rage gripped Noah. He had to hold onto the armrest of the couch to steady himself. A life insurance policy on a healthy 5-year-old child? The idea sickened him. Then another message. There's more. Larkin is Aaron Larkin, trainer at Flex Gym, has a rap sheet, assault, prescription fraud. He and Blair have been involved for at least 6 months. Confirmed through texts and photo evidence. The betrayal cut deep, but what scared Noah more was the growing suspicion that Blair's deception was more than emotional. It was potentially lethal. Keep eyes on both of them, Noah replied. I'm taking Holly to the ER, then straight to the sheriff. Get Vaughn ready. At County Memorial, inside a private exam room, Dr. Ramsey examined Holly's irritated skin, his mouth tight with concern. His expression darkened. "Another reaction to latex. No doubt in my mind," he said under his breath. "You said this started with her toothbrush?" Noah nodded, lowering his voice to avoid alerting Holly, who was now busy with a coloring book. "I have video showing Blair tampering with it earlier today." Dr. Ramsey's eyes widened. "You have actual footage?" "Installed cameras. After what you told me, I didn't want to take chances." "That was a wise decision," the doctor said. "Very proactive." "This is my daughter's life," Noah answered without hesitation. "Can you document everything?" "I'm already writing it up. Once we finish, I'll inform Sheriff Vaughn myself." Dr. Ramsey looked at Holly, his tone softening. "She's lucky to have a father who pays attention. Too often these things go unnoticed until it's too late." Those last words hit Noah like a blow. Too late. He didn't even want to think about how close they'd come. "What's the next step medically?" he asked. "We'll keep her here for observation for a few hours, just to be sure the reaction doesn't progress. The antihistamine was the right call." Dr. Ramsey scribbled notes into her chart. "Has your wife tried contacting you?" "She's called a few times. I told her Holly and I were having a father-daughter day. Then I shut off my phone." The lie slid out smoothly, but Noah knew he couldn't keep the truth hidden much longer. "Good move. Stay dark for now." The doctor glanced at his watch. "I'll have a nurse bring her something to snack on. I'll finish my documentation. You should call Vaughn." Noah stepped into the hallway, making sure the exam room door stayed ajar. He pulled out his phone and dialed. "Vaughn here," came the sheriff's voice on the second ring. "It's Noah Winslow. We've got a situation. Holly had another latex reaction. We're at County Memorial. Dr. Ramsey's with us." "Damn," Vaughn muttered. "You think Blair did this?" "I'm certain. We have video. Dylan's surveillance caught her putting latex gloves on, then contaminating Holly's toothbrush." "This morning." There was a pause as Vaughn absorbed the gravity of it. Dylan also intercepted texts between her and Larkin. They were discussing how to eliminate Holly and collect the insurance. After a long, tense silence, Vaughn spoke again. "That's enough to bring her in, but Noah, this is going to escalate quickly." "I don't care. Holly's safety comes first." "Understood. I'll send Deputy Monroe to the hospital for your statement and Dr. Ramsey's report. I'll go find Blair myself." "She's still working at Southside Boutique?" "That's where she told me she'd be," Noah replied, though he now doubted every word that had ever come from her mouth. "Stay at the hospital. Don't leave with Holly until Monroe gets there," Vaughn ordered. Noah turned to look back into the room. Holly was smiling faintly, nibbling on a cookie the nurse had brought. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "Noah, don't do anything impulsive. Let law enforcement handle it." He ended the call, his jaw tightening with frustration. Depending on a justice system that had once let Blair slip away after harming his sister left a bitter taste. Still, for the moment, he would play by the rules. Holly's safety came first. Across from him, Deputy Audrey Monroe, young but composed and professional, flipped open her notebook, ready to take down his account of the morning's discoveries. They were seated in a quiet consultation room beside Holly's hospital suite, where a nurse helped the little girl piece together a jigsaw puzzle. "Sheriff Vaughn has teams actively searching for your wife," Monroe said calmly. "With the evidence we have so far, we can at least charge her with child endangerment." Noah's response was sharp. "That's it? She deliberately exposed Holly to a lethal substance. That's attempted murder." Monroe's face remained unreadable. "That call is up to the district attorney once we have her in custody, but the message regarding the insurance policy points to premeditation." Noah's phone buzzed again. A new message from Dylan. No sign at the house or the store. Trying to track her phone, maybe off. Larkin hasn't shown up at the gym either. He turned the screen to show Monroe. Her brows knitted in concern. "I'll inform the sheriff. If both of them have gone silent, this might be bigger than we thought. She'll show up here, Noah said, voice low but certain. She'll want to know if Holly had another reaction. Monroe gave a brisk nod. I'll post extra security on this floor and someone directly outside Holly's room. As she stepped out to make the necessary arrangements, Dr. Ramsey came in, his expression serious. How is she? He asked, gesturing toward Holly's door. She's improving. The rash is fading. Noah rubbed a hand over his face, the exhaustion starting to take hold. What happens if Blair disappears? Legally, I mean. We'll issue a warrant, Ramsey replied, settling into a chair across from him. But if you haven't already, talk to a family lawyer. File for emergency sole custody. The evidence supports it, and this investigation will only help. Before Noah could say anything, a sound in the hallway drew their attention. He was on his feet in an instant, heading for Holly's room, just as Sheriff Vaughn appeared in the doorway. We've got them, the sheriff announced simply. She and Larkin were picked up at the gym. They're both in custody. Relief flooded through Noah, chased quickly by a cold satisfaction. Did she say anything? Denied everything, Vaughn replied. Claims she doesn't know how latex got on the toothbrush. Says the messages are being misinterpreted. His tone made it clear he wasn't buying it. Larkin started distancing himself from her the second charges came up. He'll sell her out to save his own skin, Noah muttered. What's the next move? We keep building the case. The DA is already reviewing the evidence. Between the video, Holly's medical files, and those texts, it's solid. Vaughn glanced toward the hospital room. How's the girl holding up? She's better. Should be discharged soon. Noah lowered his voice. I'm taking her to Dylan's guest house. It's safer than going home. Vaughn nodded in agreement. Smart move. I'll have patrols swing by. Blair's being held without bail. Too dangerous to let her out with a kid involved. But a little extra caution doesn't hurt. When the sheriff departed, Noah walked back to Holly's room. She was focused on her puzzle, carefully placing each piece. As he entered, she looked up and smiled brightly. Where's Mommy? She asked, her voice full of innocence. Is she coming too? The question pierced Noah like a blade. How do you tell a child her mother tried to harm her? Mommy's busy right now, he said softly. But guess what? You and I are having a special sleepover at Uncle Dylan's tonight. He's got a pool. Holly's eyes lit up as she chattered excitedly about swimming and which books she wanted to bring with her. Meanwhile, Noah's mind was spinning. He had to contact a lawyer, file the custody paperwork, notify Holly's school. But beneath the logistics, a darker current ran deep. Fury. Not only for Blair's actions, but for the double life she led. The picture-perfect mother who had plotted to harm her own daughter. No judge would side with her. No jury would see her as innocent. Yet somehow, even that didn't feel like justice. Prison time would never be enough. As Holly spoke, trusting and joyful, Noah made a quiet vow. He would do more than let the courts decide. He would dismantle everything Blair had built, her reputation, her liberty, her illusions of control. The moment she chose to hurt Holly, she'd lost the right to anything else. Outside, Deputy Monroe was waiting. She accompanied them to Noah's truck, then followed behind as they drove to the Winslow house to pick up Holly's things. The house no longer felt safe. It had become a container of grim revelations. Noah moved quietly and methodically, packing up Holly's belongings, her clothes, her favorite toys, the things she couldn't do without. While Monroe kept Holly distracted in the living room, I stayed busy sorting through things in the master bedroom. Noah hesitated when he reached Blair's nightstand. Something about it gave him pause. When he finally opened the drawer buried under magazines, he discovered a slim notebook. Its contents made his stomach turn. Page after page listed Holly's allergic episodes, every date, reaction, and suspected cause meticulously recorded. What might have looked like a careful mother's medical notes was, in truth, a chilling record of harm. Noah tucked the notebook into his pocket. Another piece of damning evidence. It was time to leave. Holly, unaware of the urgency, asked if they could take the beach photo with them, the one of her, Noah, and Blair from last summer. The request hit him hard. Maybe this one instead, he suggested, holding up a photo from her birthday, just the two of them smiling. But Mommy's not in that one, Holly murmured, her lips starting to tremble. Noah crouched so they were eye to eye. Tell you what, he said softly. Let's bring both. You can decide which one you want to hang up later. They arrived at Dylan's guest house, a sleek, modern single-bedroom space tucked behind his main residence. Once Holly was settled in, already organizing her stuffed animals on the bed, Dylan pulled Noah aside. Blair's already brought in a lawyer, he reported. Her uncle hired some hotshot from Charleston. Noah's voice was cold. It won't make a difference. We've got solid evidence. Still, be ready for a fight, Dylan warned, casting a glance at Holly through the open doorway. What are you going to say to her? It was the question Noah had feared the most. How do you tell a child that their life has been turned upside down? He let out a slow breath. For now, just the basics. That her mom made a bad choice and has to be away for a while. Dylan gave a slow nod. And what about that camping trip Blair was planning? I've been thinking about that, Noah replied. We don't have direct proof of her intentions, just a series of ominous texts. But nothing definitive, Dylan finished. Her attorney will argue they're vague or taken out of context. You're suggesting we let her think the trip is still happening? Noah asked, catching on. Exactly, set a trap. But keep Holly far from it, Dylan added quickly. If we can get Blair to speak openly with Larkin, it could be the final piece we need. It was ruthless, calculated, but maybe their only real shot at ensuring Blair could never threaten Holly again. I'll bring it up with Vaughn, Noah said. If we do this officially, it'll carry more weight in court. And if he refuses? Then we go around him, Noah said, his voice like steel. From the other room, Holly called out, needing help arranging her stuffed animals just right. Noah joined her, carefully placing each plush figure exactly where she wanted. As he did, a fierce protectiveness gripped him. He couldn't afford hesitation. Not now. Not with Holly's safety on the line. No punishment would ever feel like enough. Blair had broken something sacred. Noah had sworn she would face the consequences. Ever since he'd read Dr. Ramsey's note, a dark resolve had taken hold of him, now shaping into a plan Blair would never see coming. The sheriff's office felt cramped, 5 people squeezed into the small space. Noah sat beside Phoebe Drake, a relentless family law attorney with a reputation for winning. Across the desk sat Sheriff Vaughn, flanked by Deputy Monroe and District Attorney Martin Farrow. Farrow tapped a pen rhythmically against his legal pad. Let me get this straight, Farrow said. You want us to approve bail for Blair Winslow, a woman already suspected of endangering her child, just so we can catch her attempting something worse? She's already plotting it, Noah replied. Her texts with Larkin point to the camping trip as the moment she planned to go through with it. They're open to interpretation, Farrow countered. Her legal team will say they've been misunderstood. What we've got, latex contamination, medical findings, some video footage, it's enough for serious charges, but maybe not enough to guarantee she's kept away from Holly permanently. Noah clenched his jaw. So the best we can hope for is endangerment? Maybe an attempted murder charge? With her uncle's connections, she could negotiate a plea, serve a short sentence, and walk free. Drake added, My client has every reason to be afraid. In similar situations, offenders have served 5 to 7 years, sometimes with parole. And if she retains her parental rights, Noah added grimly, she could eventually push for visitation, even custody. I can't let that happen. Vaughn leaned in, hands steepled under his chin. What exactly are you proposing? Let her think the camping trip is still on, Noah said. We'll use an undercover officer to pose as the bail agent her uncle would send. Fit her with a tracking device, something that looks legitimate, but that we control. What about Larkin? Monroe asked. Keep him behind bars, Noah replied. But let her believe she can communicate with him. If she thinks she's in the clear, she'll open up. Farrow shook his head, frowning. That's risky. Defense could argue entrapment. If we refrain from giving any input whatsoever, Drake reasoned, and she formulates every idea and decision independently, it legally can't be construed as entrapment. Vaughn reclined in his chair, silently assessing the potential consequences. I can't authorize this officially. There are too many unknowns, too many legal landmines. He went on. But if her uncle bails her out, which is likely, we have no legal authority to stop it if the judge consents. After that, surveillance of a suspect in an active investigation is still within our rights. Farrow shot him a sharp look. You're skirting dangerously close to a legal gray area, Sheriff. Vaughn met her gaze evenly. My job is to safeguard a child, and I'll use every lawful means available to do that. 2 days later, Noah sat inside Dylan's surveillance control room, eyes locked on the feed as Blair returned home. Accompanying her was a man in a tailored designer suit, likely her uncle, Connor. A discreet ankle monitor now circled her leg. Her release came with strict limitations. She was forbidden from contacting Holly, and her movements were tightly regulated. Dylan had upgraded the monitoring system. Now, every room except the bathrooms was wired for video. While Sheriff Vaughn had officially distanced himself from the operation, he had assigned Deputy Monroe to manage the ongoing case documentation, ensuring law enforcement's continued involvement. She's on her phone, Dylan noted, pointing toward one of the screens. Started scrolling the second Connor stepped out. Noah watched in silence as Blair browsed through her messages, her expression impossible to read. Moments later, she made a call, placed it on speaker, and wandered into the kitchen. Ash? It's me, she said, her voice eerily composed. I'm back. They slapped this stupid tracker on me, but Connor's attorney says it's just a formality. Larkin's voice came through the speaker, tense and confused. Bree, what the hell is happening? They're accusing you of trying to poison Holly, and me of being your accomplice. Are you serious? Larkin said. They're listening, Bree. Exactly, she snapped. So shut up and let me talk. Connor's working on your bail too. The charges won't hold. It's all circumstantial. They have our texts about the money, the camping trip. None of that proves anything, she said calmly. We can claim they were about post-divorce plans, nothing incriminating. Her tone turned steely. The key is consistency. We stick to our version. I never harmed Holly. The latex incident was a fluke. They're twisting the narrative. Larkin hesitated. What about the video? The one with the gloves? A flicker of doubt crossed Blair's face. What video? Noah felt a cold sense of confirmation. She still didn't know they'd captured everything. They're saying there's footage of you putting latex on Holly's toothbrush, Larkin said. Her features hardened. They're bluffing. There were no cameras in the house. Even if they do have something, it doesn't prove I meant any harm. This is crazy, Bree, Larkin muttered. I didn't sign up for... For what? She cut in sharply. For $2 million? For fresh start? That is what you signed up for. Nothing's changed. Her voice dropped into a conspiratorial whisper. The campsite booking is still good. 2 weeks from now. By then, Noah will have relaxed. Noah clenched his jaw, listening to the woman he once loved clinically plan the murder of their child. Next to him, Deputy Monroe quietly documented everything, her face composed, though visibly disturbed. Larkin's tone wavered. I don't know, Bree. This is feeling too risky. It's only risky if you panic, Blair replied, her voice ice-cold. Get out on bail. Stay quiet. Be ready. Noah's predictable. He'll play nice for Holly's sake. Split custody. Smooth handoffs. All I need is one weekend. One opportunity. 9 days later, everything took a turn. From the command center, Noah and his team watched Blair take a call in the living room. Hello? Yes. "This is Blair speaking," she said, initial annoyance quickly giving way to cautious focus. The caller introduced herself as Dr. Matthews. In reality, it was an undercover officer working alongside Deputy Monroe, phoning from a spoofed number that mimicked Charleston General's. "Yes, I remember the appointment," Blair responded, her tone smooth. "I'd like to confirm Holly's registration. Yes, the camping trip is still happening next weekend." Noah's stomach tightened as he listened. "You have her test results?" "Yes, she's allergic to latex," Blair continued nonchalantly. "And you'll have an epinephrine injector ready?" "Good. That's exactly what we'll need." A subtle curve formed on Blair's lips. "Yes, my father's been notified," she answered with practiced ease. "It's all handled under the provisional contract." Another falsehood. Just one more damning lie added to the mounting deception. As soon as the call ended, Blair didn't reach out to Larkin. Instead, she dialed a number absent from her usual contacts. Switching to speakerphone, she began pacing across the hardwood floor of her apartment. "It's me," she said when the line connected. "Everything's set for next weekend. Medical arrangements are secured." "What about the boyfriend?" came a reply, the man's voice low, marked with a faint southern lilt. "Is he still locked away?" "He is," Blair confirmed without hesitation. "But it won't interfere. I could handle this alone, you know." "Don't be reckless," the man warned her. "We barely got out of the last mess. Your uncle's influence has limits. If you screw this up—" "I won't," she cut in, her voice razor sharp. "Last time was too subtle. It could have passed as just bad luck." "This time it'll be unmistakable," she said coldly, "but still clean enough to look like a freak accident, a simple outdoor mishap. Holly wanders off, maybe ends up in the lake. By the time they find her—" She let the silence finish the thought for her. "And what about Noah?" he asked after a pause. "Where's he fit in?" "He's convinced I'm behind it all. That's the problem I'm fixing now." Blair let out a bitter chuckle. "Noah's easy. He believes what's right in front of him. Right now, he thinks I'm the villain because someone told him I was. But if I cry enough, act devastated, play the grieving, wrongly accused mother, he'll doubt himself. He always does. He's predictable like that." Her voice was dripping with scorn. After 5 years of marriage, this was how she truly viewed Noah. Not a partner, but a pawn. A means to raise a child she now intended to dispose of. "Just keep it tight," the man cautioned again. "One slip, and Connor won't cover for you this time. You'll be on your own." "I won't slip," she replied, her tone like ice. 7 days from now, I'll be a bereaved mother sitting on a $2 million settlement, and nobody will be able to touch me. Once the call ended, Deputy Monroe stood abruptly, tension etched across his face. "I'm calling the DA. That's it. We've got what we need." She openly admitted to premeditated murder, mentioned a prior failed attempt, and spelled out her entire plan. While Monroe stepped out to place the call, Dylan moved closer to Noah. "I know that look," he said gently. "What's going through your head?" "Nothing I could be arrested for," Noah replied, though the hesitation in his voice betrayed the storm beneath. "But prison's not enough. She needs to lose everything. Her freedom, her reputation, her family's protection, every safety net." "I don't want to just stop her," Noah continued. "I want to blow the whole thing wide open. Connor, the shady deals, the Georgia cover-up. She wasn't just planning to kill Holly. She's part of a machine that lets her get away with it." "I'll find it," Dylan said with quiet resolve. "Whatever they've buried, I'll dig it up." Despite having enough evidence to arrest Blair outright, Sheriff Vaughn proposed a final move, a controlled sting that would remove all doubt about her intentions. The operation was simple in concept, but meticulous in execution. Blair would believe the camping trip was proceeding with Holly in tow. In truth, a trained child actor from a neighboring jurisdiction, closely resembling Holly, would take the girl's place. Covert surveillance would track every second, from the moment Blair left her home to the moment she was taken in. The day of the staged trip dawned warm and cloudless. In the surveillance command center, Noah observed Blair through a monitor as she calmly packed gear into her SUV. Her actions were deliberate, precise. Already that morning, she had made 2 calls to her uncle, updating him on the supposed progress. "She's meticulous," Dylan said, eyes fixed on the screen, trying to make everything look routine. "Rewind the footage, watch the cooler," Noah instructed. "She hid something in there earlier." Dylan scrubbed through the video and zoomed in, pausing as Blair subtly slipped what appeared to be a medical pouch under a layer of food. "Can we get a closer look at that?" Monroe asked, leaning in. "I've got it," Dylan replied, adjusting the settings. The image sharpened to reveal syringes, glass vials, and disposable gloves. "Christ," Monroe breathed. "She's planning an injection," Noah said grimly. "Maybe epinephrine. A strong enough dose can trigger cardiac arrest." "And with Holly's allergy history, no one would question it," Monroe added. "Just another tragic reaction gone too far." Right at 10 a.m., Blair's phone rang. It was the setup call, an undercover posing as Noah, confirming that Holly would be dropped off at the meeting point, a busy public park near the fake campsite. "Wonderful. We're all set then," Blair replied cheerfully. "Everything's packed. Holly's going to adore this little getaway." As she backed out of her driveway, Monroe verified her vehicle's tracker was transmitting. "All units keep eyes on her," he said into the radio. At the designated drop-off point, Blair arrived and parked. She checked her reflection in the mirror, smoothing her features into the portrait of a loving, excited mother, completely unaware that her every glance and gesture was being documented as evidence. An unmarked police SUV came to a quiet stop nearby, and an officer exited, guiding a small girl by the hand. The child, a deliberate part of the operation, wore a pink jacket similar to the one Holly used to wear, her hair fashioned into matching pigtails. At the same time, Blair steered her car toward the campsite, speaking animatedly to the empty back seat as if her daughter were really there. "We're going to have so much fun, baby," she said with exaggerated cheerfulness, her words captured cleanly by concealed microphones embedded in surveillance vehicles nearby. "I brought all your favorite snacks and Mr. Flopsy Jr. too. Should we pitch the tent first or go for a hike?" When she arrived, Blair chose a spot by the water's edge, secluded enough to feel private, yet still in view of a few neighboring campers. From multiple hidden positions, agents kept her in sight, while Dylan operated a drone circling overhead for full coverage. Over the following hour, Blair went through the motions of a typical family outing. She unfolded a collapsible table, laid out treats, and read aloud from a picture book, giving the impression of a devoted parent spending time with a child who might just be inside the tent or nearby in the woods. It all looked normal, until she made her move. Checking her surroundings with discreet glances, Blair opened the rear of her vehicle and retrieved a cooler. She placed it on the table and, hidden beneath layers of packaged food, pulled out a medical kit. "Eyes on target," Monroe said into her headset. She's accessing the kit. All attention locked on her as she took out a syringe and carefully filled it from a small vial. Her efficiency made it clear she was no amateur. "That's not adrenaline," Noah said sharply, narrowing his eyes at the fluid's distinct color. "It's potassium chloride, lethal. It's used for lethal injections, stops the heart almost instantly." "Damn it," Monroe hissed. "Where the hell did she get access to that?" "Her uncle," Noah replied coldly. "He's well connected, probably got her access to controlled substances." Blair set the syringe on a napkin with clinical precision, then did something that caught everyone off guard. She positioned her phone carefully, aiming it toward the lake in front of the camp. "What is she doing?" Dylan asked, adjusting the drone for a better view. "She's setting the scene," Noah said grimly, "creating an alibi. She's going to act like Holly wandered off while she was distracted." Blair hit the record button, lifted the syringe, and began walking slowly toward the water, calling out calmly, "Holly, sweetie, it's time to eat." She kept up the performance, her voice shifting from relaxed to concerned as she moved across the site, pretending to look for her daughter. Then, as if on cue, she gasped dramatically and pointed toward the water. "Holly, stay away from the edge," she shouted, making sure the camera picked up every word as she ran, concealing the syringe in her hand. "Go, now," Monroe ordered sharply. "All units, move in. She's actively staging a homicide." The response was immediate. Sheriff Vaughn and a team of deputies emerged from their cover, weapons drawn. Additional officers approached from the lakeside. "Blair Winslow," Vaughn called, "put down the syringe and raise your hands." She froze, the syringe still clutched in her hand. Her expression wavered, false panic dissolving into stunned confusion. Her gaze darted around, clearly searching for Holly. Then came the realization she'd been caught. "Where is she?" she screamed, refusing to comply. "Where's my daughter?" "She's safe from you," Vaughn replied, voice steady. "Put the syringe down. It's over, Blair." For a moment, her face darkened with something volatile, desperation teetering on the edge of violence. And then, in a sudden movement, she drove the syringe into her own thigh. "Suspect self-injected," Monroe shouted. "She's taken the potassium chloride. We need EMTs immediately." Chaos ensued. Deputies tackled her, knocking the syringe loose before the full dose could be administered. Paramedics who'd been standing by sprinted into action, armed with life-saving equipment and a defibrillator. Noah watched from a distance, unmoving, as Blair convulsed under the effects of the injection. There was no triumph in him, no grief, no fury, just a hollow emptiness where once there had been love. "She's stabilizing," Monroe reported after a tense moment. "We're taking her to County Memorial under guard. Vaughn is riding with her in the ambulance." 2 weeks passed, and Blair's preliminary hearing was scheduled. Despite her suicide attempt, medical professionals confirmed she was mentally and physically able to stand trial, an essential, if small, victory in what would surely be a complex legal battle. Noah sat quietly in District Attorney Farrow's office, going over the evidence files one last time before proceedings began. The documents in front of him detailed Blair's pattern of deceit, everything from medical records outlining Holly's known latex allergy to footage of Blair deliberately exposing her daughter to it, and text messages discussing the life insurance policy and the camping trip plan. "It's overwhelming," Farrow said, gesturing toward the heap of files on the table. "In over 20 years, I've never seen a Munchausen by proxy case backed by this much evidence. Just the campsite surveillance alone could seal a conviction." His voice faltered slightly. "There's a catch?" Noah asked, noting the hesitation. Farrow nodded. "Her uncle brought in Elliot Weber to lead the defense. He's infamous for twisting even the most straightforward cases into media circuses, exploiting technicalities and painting abusers as misunderstood victims." "Blair doesn't qualify as one," Noah said firmly. "I don't think so either," Farrow agreed. "But Weber will probably build a case around her supposed childhood trauma. Dylan uncovered some of her old medical files." He slid a folder across the desk toward Noah. Inside were records from numerous hospital visits during her youth, each tied to incidents that, in retrospect, raised red flags. "The defense will say she's battled mental illness for years," Farrow continued. "That what she needs isn't incarceration, but psychiatric care." He leaned in slightly. "We have to dismantle that argument before it takes root. Show that her actions toward Holly were deliberate and calculated." "And how exactly do we prove that?" Noah asked. "We've issued a subpoena for her recent medical records," Farrow said. "If there's no psychiatric history or diagnosis within the last 5 years, it seriously undercuts their claim." He paused, seeming to weigh his next words. "There's something else. Something Weber hasn't uncovered, and likely doesn't even suspect exists." Opening his laptop, Farrow navigated to a file. It came from her cloud storage. The warrant gave us access to all her digital content, but this was deeply buried. A video began to play. Blair appeared, seated alone in a hotel room, facing the camera. The timestamp placed it 6 months earlier. "If you're watching this," she began in a steady, emotionless voice, "then something has gone wrong. This recording is my insurance, proof that I'm mentally sound and fully conscious of my choices." Noah felt sick as her words continued. "Holly Winslow isn't Noah's child by blood. She's Aaron Larkin's, conceived before I ever met Noah. He never knew. I let him believe she was his. For 5 years, he's loved someone else's daughter." Noah's hands clenched the desk, his breath catching as the weight of her confession hit him. "The plan's straightforward," Blair went on. "The life insurance doubles if the death's accidental. 2 million becomes 4. More than enough for Aaron and me to disappear and start over. Noah loses everything, and he deserves it for being so pathetically naive." Farrow paused the video, watching Noah carefully. "I'm sorry you had to hear that like this. We only found the video during our final evidence sweep yesterday." Noah's thoughts raced. Holly wasn't his? The little girl he had cherished from the day she was born? His entire world, now reduced to a pawn in Blair's scheme? But he pulled himself together. "It doesn't change anything," he said, voice hoarse with feeling. "Holly is mine, in every way that matters." He pointed at Blair's image, frozen mid-frame. "And that right there proves she wasn't delusional. She knew exactly what she was doing." "Exactly," Farrow said. "And there's more. She outlines everything, how she deliberately provoked Holly's allergic reactions as tests, documented dosages, and selected the camping trip as the perfect setting for a staged accident. It's all there, in her own words." He resumed the footage. Blair's tone was cold, methodical. "I've been exposing her to latex gradually to build a medical trail. The trip's the perfect moment, secluded, near water, and supported by a paper trail that justifies a delayed allergic response. Noah will be devastated, of course." Her lips curled into a slight smile. "But he'll move on. Men like him always do." Farrow stopped the playback once more and slid another folder across the desk. "One last thing," he said. "We ran our own paternity test, samples from you, Holly, and Larkin." Noah stared. "She lied about that too," Farrow said quietly. "Holly is your biological daughter, 100%. The lie she meant to leave behind was engineered." Noah grabbed the document, scanning the clinical data that confirmed the truth. Relief swept through him, followed by a sudden surge of fury. Blair had tried to take Holly from him twice, first by planning her death, and then by twisting reality into a cruel illusion designed to haunt him forever. "Weber doesn't know any of this," Farrow added. "The video, the DNA results. We're holding them back until the preliminary hearing. She'll be there when it all comes crashing down." "Good," Noah said, his voice like steel. "I want to watch her face when it starts." Inside the Charleston County Courthouse, a low hum of tension pulsed through the hallways as Noah made his way in through a seldom-used side door, closely followed by Phoebe Drake. The main entrance had become a gauntlet of flashing cameras and jostling reporters, all desperate for a glimpse of the most talked-about legal battle of the year. The pretrial hearing for State versus Winslow had grown into a media feeding frenzy, drawing not only regional news outlets, but national networks and notorious true crime content creators eager to exploit the dark allure of a mother accused of weaponizing her child's health. At precisely 9 a.m., another discreet doorway opened, and 2 uniformed officers led Blair into the courtroom. She wore the drab beige of county-issued attire. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a strict ponytail, her features arranged into a mask of solemn endurance. But the second her gaze met Noah's, that mask slipped. A flicker of malice, sharp and unmistakable, crossed her face before she quickly regained her composure. Walking beside her was Elliot Weber, immaculate in a custom-tailored suit. Weber, with his silver hair carefully parted and his every move exuding a calm authority, was the epitome of elite legal defense. His reputation as one of the Southeast's most formidable attorneys preceded him. As the bailiff called the courtroom to order, a hush swept through the room. Moments later, Judge Elise Hadley stepped in, her lined face unreadable. Known for her uncompromising standards and strict courtroom discipline, she didn't waste a second. "We are convened today for the preliminary hearing in the case of State versus Blair Jensen's Winslow," she said, glancing over the top of her glasses at both legal teams. "Charges include attempted murder in the first degree, child endangerment, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder." She gave a nod in the direction of the prosecution. "Mr. Farrow, you may begin." Over the next 2 hours, Assistant District Attorney Mason Farrow presented the state's argument with clinical precision. He introduced testimony from Dr. Ramsey, who had witnessed a troubling pattern of unexplained allergic reactions in Holly, coupled with his previous, suspicious encounters with Blair in Georgia. Lab results confirmed that latex, a substance known to trigger Holly's reactions, had been introduced into her body. Surveillance video caught Blair tampering with her daughter's toothbrush. Additional evidence included a string of text messages between Blair and Aaron Larkin, discussing both the sizable life insurance policy and their plans for a certain camping trip. Through all of this, Blair appeared calm and collected. She occasionally leaned over to whisper to Weber or scribbled notes on her legal pad. To someone watching from afar, she might have looked like a wronged parent swept up in tragic circumstances. That illusion didn't last. "The state now submits Exhibit 17, Farrow said. "This is a video file recovered from the defendant's cloud storage under a valid court-issued warrant." Weber was immediately on his feet. "Objection. This constitutes a private recording and should be excluded as protected communication." "Overruled," Judge Hadley cut in without hesitation. "We already ruled on this in chambers. The warrant explicitly includes access to cloud-based content. The exhibit is admissible." At her signal, a technician dimmed the lights. A screen descended at the front of the courtroom, and the video began. Blair's image filled the screen, her face cold and expressionless, as she launched into a disturbing soliloquy. She spoke with calculated detachment about how Holly wasn't Noah's biological child, about the life insurance payout, and about what she called her flawless accident. A wave of stunned whispers moved through the room. Even seasoned journalists looked visibly shaken by the stark, emotionless way she outlined her intentions. But the most profound reaction didn't come from the crowd. It came from Blair herself. As her own voice echoed through the courtroom, spelling out the premeditated steps of her plan, her mask fell apart. Her skin turned pale. Her eyes darted, wide and panicked, before narrowing with rage. She turned to Weber, speaking in a desperate whisper. He, too, looked blindsided. The unshakable composure he was known for had vanished. What remained was the look of a man who had just realized the game was lost. When the video stopped, the silence that followed was suffocating. No one moved until Farrow cleared his throat. "This footage, Your Honor," he said, "was recorded by Ms. Winslow herself as a form of leverage against her accomplice, Mr. Larkin. It is a freely made admission, outlining not only her actions but her motivations and mental state." He paused, letting his words settle like dust after an explosion. "Additionally, DNA tests have confirmed that, despite what Ms. Winslow says in the video, Holly Winslow is indeed the biological child of Mr. Nathan Winslow. Her statements were a calculated attempt to maximize emotional devastation." At that, Blair snapped. She stood so violently that her chair screeched backward. "You don't understand," she shrieked, her voice fraying at the edges. "None of you get it. She was never meant to be born. I was stuck with him because of her." She jabbed a trembling finger at Noah. Her eyes were blazing. "She destroyed my life." "Ms. Winslow," Judge Hadley warned, pounding her gavel, "take your seat, or I'll have you removed." Weber reached to restrain her gently, his hand firm on her arm, but she tore free. "It wasn't supposed to go like this," she cried out, her voice breaking. "Aaron and I had everything worked out. Then she came along, and suddenly I'm living in some nightmare version of suburbia while he's out building an empire. Noah never even noticed when Aaron and I started up again. Never asked. Just kept playing perfect dad to Holly. Always Holly." Judge Hadley continued to call for order, but Blair was no longer listening. "You think I'm the villain?" she barked, laughing, an unstable, jagged sound. "Go ahead. Ask my uncle where he really got the money for those deals. Ask about the others. Ask what really happened to my cousin's baby that died of SIDS. My sister died when she was just 12. She drowned. It was a horrific, senseless accident. This is how we manage the weight of it. This is our way of surviving." Even as the deputies reached her, gripped her by the arms, and began escorting her out of the courtroom, she didn't stop shouting. Her final words, thrown over her shoulder like a curse, cut through the silence like a blade. She deserved what happened to her, and I wouldn't hesitate to do it again. 3 months had gone by since the preliminary hearing, and now Noah found himself in yet another official building, this time a family courtroom. Judge Madeline Dean presided over the hearing, her office lined with legal tomes and brightened by framed crayon drawings, the environment a blend of stern justice and gentle humanity. "Mr. Winslow," Judge Dean said as she examined the documents in front of her, "I've thoroughly reviewed your petition to terminate Blair Winslow's parental rights. The evidence and supporting documentation are thorough and persuasive." Noah gave a restrained nod, his hands clenched together in his lap. This marked the official end of Blair's hold over Holly, a final legal acknowledgement that the damage she inflicted as a mother couldn't be undone. Considering the criminal proceedings, the established pattern of harm, and the testimony from Child Services and Dr. Price, Holly's therapist, I see no reason to delay, the judge said, signing the order with a firm motion. Effective immediately, Blair Winslow's parental rights are terminated. You now have exclusive and permanent custody of Holly, Mr. Winslow. Relief broke over Noah like a tide, softening a tension that had lived in his chest for years. Thank you, Your Honor. There's also the issue of Holly's surname, Judge Dean continued. You've asked for a legal name change to help shield her from the public attention surrounding this case. Yes, Noah replied without pause. She's been through enough. That name carries too much pain. Every time she hears it, it pulls her back into that nightmare. Changing it would help her heal. Judge Dean gave a thoughtful nod. A reasonable request, and clearly aligned with the child's well-being. From today forward, she will be known as Holly Morgan. Outside the courthouse, Dylan sat behind the wheel, watching as Noah approached the car. When Noah climbed in, Dylan glanced over, raising an eyebrow in silent question. It's done, Noah said. She's mine legally, and her name's changed. Dylan gave Noah's shoulder a steady, reassuring squeeze. That's a step forward. One more bond to Blair. Gone. Noah nodded, then asked, And the other thing? Dylan pulled the car into gear and merged into traffic. Connor Jensen's empire is collapsing. After Blair's courtroom meltdown, Georgia authorities reopened the investigation into her younger sister's drowning. That prompted a new look into 3 additional suspicious deaths in their extended family. The FBI's involved now, investigating financial fraud tied to Jensen's development projects. Noah felt a cold satisfaction rise within him. What started as a fight to protect Holly had evolved into something broader, a mission to expose the rot at the heart of the Jensen's legacy. There's more, Dylan said, his tone growing more serious. Weber told Farrow that Blair's offering to testify against her uncle in exchange for a lighter sentence. Noah's jaw tightened. Farrow better not take that. He won't, Dylan confirmed. Not with the confession video and all the evidence they collected from the campground. Farrow told Weber that if Blair wants to help in the larger case, fine, but it won't spare her from answering for what she did to Holly. Dylan paused, hesitant, before continuing. There's one more thing. Dr. Ramsey called me this morning. His wife, Grace, turns out she knew Blair years ago, before she ever moved to Charleston. I remember, Noah said. He thought she looked familiar at the hospital. Well, Grace has been digging through old photo albums to assist with the reopened Georgia case. She found something unexpected. Dylan turned into a coffee shop parking lot and switched off the engine. He turned to Noah, meeting his eyes. We always thought Blair had one younger sister, the one who died. But according to Grace, there was another, a middle child, and she survived. Noah blinked, stunned. Blair never mentioned another sister. That's because the girl was removed from the home around the time the youngest drowned. Abuse allegations. She was placed in foster care, later adopted, and her records were sealed. Her name was changed. So why does this matter now? Noah asked, though a chilling suspicion was already forming in his mind. Dylan exhaled. Because Grace thinks she might be here, in Charleston, and that she has been for years. Noah's voice sharpened. Who? Who does she think it is? Dylan didn't look away. Ramsey's nurse, the one who first noticed something unusual in Holly's symptoms. Monica Kane? The name struck Noah like a blow. Monica, kind, observant, calm, the nurse who had flagged a possible latex allergy on Holly's first emergency visit. The one who always seemed to be there, quietly helping. No, that's too much of a coincidence. Ramsey thought the same thing, Dylan said. But he still looked into her past. She moved here 6 years ago, just after nursing school in Ohio. Her paperwork lists her as an only child, parents both deceased. But there's a hole in her timeline, years unaccounted for. It doesn't make sense. You're telling me, Noah said slowly, his voice low and heavy, that she might have followed Blair here? Dylan had come to believe something, tentatively but with growing certainty, that she had always known who Blair truly was. It would make sense of how Dr. Ramsey had instantly picked up on Blair's psychological patterns, and why his mind had so quickly jumped to a diagnosis of Munchausen by proxy. Perhaps Monica had opened up to him at some point, sharing details shaped by her own experience growing up alongside her sister. In Charleston, spring had arrived in full, transforming the streets with vibrant azaleas and dogwoods in bloom. 6 months had passed since Blair's sensational trial had come to a close, a 3-week spectacle that had riveted the nation. The verdict hadn't surprised anyone. Guilty on every count. The judge sentenced her to 30 years in prison, no possibility of parole. Her uncle Connor, once a figure of considerable influence, had seen his reputation collapse after facing criminal charges for money laundering. On the front porch of their modest new place, Noah cradled a mug of coffee, its steam fading, as he watched Holly navigate the sidewalk on her small bike. She was 6 now, growing bolder each day. Her face tightened in concentration as she steered carefully over the uneven pavement. "Daddy, look! No hands!" she shouted, arms lifting briefly before grabbing the handlebars again. "Careful, sweetheart," Noah called back, smiling even as a flicker of anxiety passed through him. Their new neighborhood was quiet and kind, not intrusive, just gently welcoming. Holly's elementary school was only a short walk away, a future milestone that already felt close. The house itself was simple, 3 bedrooms, a weathered kitchen, and a bit of yard. It wasn't glamorous, but it was theirs, and more importantly, it wasn't stained by memories of the past. The soft growl of a car engine drew Noah's attention. Dylan's SUV rolled into the driveway. Grace Rourke sat up front, Monica in the rear seat. Together, they had become something like an adopted family, a support system, informal but strong, united by pain and purpose. Their common thread, Holly. "Uncle Dylan!" Holly cried out, leaving her bike behind as she dashed across the lawn. "Hey, kiddo," Dylan said, lifting her into a quick hug. "You ready for the big outing?" "Yep, I brought my kite and everything." It was a day of celebration, their first spring picnic at Hampton Park. It wasn't just about the season, it was about beginnings. Dr. Ramsey would meet them there later, alongside Sheriff Vaughn and his wife, and even Phoebe Drake, who had kept in touch since the trial had ended. Over time, Monica had become a comforting fixture in Holly's world, first introduced as a friendly nurse and only gradually revealed to be more. She was a connection to Blair's side of the family, certainly, but she symbolized endurance more than regret. They hadn't pushed Holly into anything. They'd moved forward gently, thoughtfully, giving her the time she needed to make her own sense of the past. They loaded into 2 vehicles and headed off. Holly filled the drive with chatter, talking about her science experiment, an upcoming birthday party, and the ordinary wonders a 6-year-old should focus on. The heavy shadows from before no longer ruled their lives. Much of that healing was thanks to therapy. Dr. Price, a specialist in child trauma, had patiently helped Holly sort through confusion and sorrow. From the beginning, Noah and the others had agreed to tell the truth, but in a way suited to her age. Holly understood that her mother had done something very wrong, that she wouldn't be part of their lives anymore. She knew Blair had tried to hurt her, but also that none of it was her fault. More details would come in time, when Holly was ready. For now, it was enough that she felt loved, secure, and allowed to just be a child again. At the park, they chose a shaded spot beneath a broad oak tree, spreading blankets across the grass, still fresh with morning dew. Sheriff Vaughn and his wife arrived shortly after, toting chairs and coolers. While the adults unpacked, Holly tugged at Dylan's hand, pulling him toward an open area where the breeze might help launch her kite. From a few yards away, Noah watched, emotion rising in his throat as he took in the joyful scene. "She's really thriving," Monica murmured, stepping up beside him. "You've done something amazing here." "We all have," Noah replied, glancing around at the friends who had become family. "It's not just me. We built this together, every one of us." Monica nodded, following the colorful arc of Holly's kite as it danced in the air. "The Jensens lived behind lies," she said, gesturing toward their little group. "But what we've got here, this is built on truth, on love, on deciding who we want to be instead of letting the past decide for us." Noah gave a slow nod, her words striking something deep. Blair's actions had marked them all, but they hadn't destroyed them, and Holly would grow up unbroken too. Later in the afternoon, dark clouds began to gather at the edge of the sky, signaling that the weather was about to turn. They packed their things without rush, dividing up leftovers and folding blankets with the ease of shared routine. Back at home, after hugs and see-you-soons, Noah helped Holly hang her damp kite in the garage. Rain began to fall just as they stepped through the doorway, a sudden downpour that had them dashing inside, dripping and laughing. "Did you have fun today?" Noah asked as he helped her out of her wet coat. "Uh-huh," she said, nodding enthusiastically. "Uncle Dylan says next time we can bring a frisbee, and Miss Monica's gonna teach me how to make those cookies." "Sounds like a perfect day," he said, smiling. "Go change into something dry and we'll pick a movie to watch before dinner." As Holly skipped off toward her bedroom, Noah lingered in the kitchen. Raindrops tapped gently against the window pane, and the fading sun behind the clouds made each droplet shimmer like a tiny jewel. Blair was no longer woven into the fabric of their everyday routines. She was now serving a sentence in a distant federal penitentiary. The once formidable influence her uncle had wielded had collapsed. The harm inflicted by their family had finally been acknowledged and dismantled. While the justice system had spoken, delivering a definitive legal resolution, the emotional healing ahead remained a long, uncharted journey, one that defied timelines and seasons. Still, within the lingering ache, they had begun to find fragments of joy once more. Out of the shattered bonds, they were slowly crafting something new, not simply a restored life, but an entirely different kind of foundation. It was built not on inherited ties or obligation, but on deliberate choice, mutual respect, and heartfelt connection. Holly's voice floated in from the next room, asking for help choosing a movie. Noah stepped back from the window, allowing the rhythm of the rain, and all the weight it carried, to slip into the background. What lay before them was a blank page, uncertain, unwritten, yet filled with promise. They would face it together, a father and his daughter, surrounded by the warmth of a family that wasn't bound by blood, but by love, and had embraced them in return. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean, open to the possibilities of a brand new day. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you?